Welcome to our podcast. My name is Amelia.
My name is Sherrick, and this is Amelia.
And Sherrick, what are you doing?
The podcast where we talk about everything on the planet as it pertains to our lovely brains.
Yep.
Which is an upgrade from It's Everything and Nothing.
Is it, though?
Hey, it is, but like, it's like a half step up.
Okay. Well, so today on the podcast, we have a guest. This is our first guest.
Yes.
It's our friend Amber.
Hi, Amber.
What's up?
Perfect.
So, yeah, she's here to talk about reality dating shows because she's much more of an expert than we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Sherrick, what have you been up to this week?
I have been embroiled in a deep desire for Animal Crossing New Horizons, because that game is going to be like everything that I could have hoped it could have been, and possibly more, because they haven't told us everything about it. So if y'all are fans of Animal Crossing, let me know, because I want to talk to you about it all of the times. Maybe there may be like a mini episode where I just gush about Animal Crossing and Amelia just stares awkwardly at me for like 30 minutes, just like slowly backs away until she's out of the room. And then I'm just like, hey, are you still there? Are you still there? No? Okay,
just
bye.
Homer Simpsoning it right out of the room.
That's
right
exactly
on out of
what
it.
I was gonna say.
So I'm just like going on YouTube and just reading stuff and just finding out, like, just listening to people talk about Animal Crossing because it's so great. What about you?
Gotcha. Yeah, I am ridiculously tired, and hopefully it will make me more funny today. I don't know. But that's because I was at our state caucuses last night.
Yeah, doing that responsibility.
Yeah, I wasn't caucusing myself in my precinct, but I was helping my friend Amanda go through hers because she's running for office.
Proud of you.
I essentially spent the entire night just like walking behind her with a shoulder bag full of stuff and lit and stickers saying, okay, we gotta go. Okay, we gotta go. Okay, we gotta go. And texting her friend to pull the car around.
Nice.
I felt very official and responsible, and
very Tony Hale from Veep.
Yes, very Tony Hale from Veep. If anybody knows that reference. So, yeah, it was good. It was just very tiring. So yeah.
Okay.
Amber, how was your week?
It's been pretty good. So I work in the events industry, making people's weddings and galas beautiful. And as a result of that, I got to attend the Minnesota Animal Humane Society's annual gala because we provided some decor for that. So that just basically meant that I got to like get dressed up real fancy and get free alcohol and hang out with puppies all night. Because all the guests are invited to bring their dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And these people do not play around. They have special outfits for their animals too. Like, they're also attending a gala. So all the little tutus and the little tuxedos and the little bow ties, and it's super great because like you're at this fancy dinner and you're eating your chicken breast and your mixed veg and please pass the bread, stranger next to me, and there's just like a dog barking next to you. And I had a little friend named Toby that sat by me.
Oh, Toby.
He would get really upset whenever I stopped petting him because his head was like just the level of where my hand was.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, pet the animals all night long. I was there for it. It was amazing.
Yep. She was sending me pictures and I fell in love with Toby. I just wanted him so much. And I don't even really like dogs that much. So sorry, everybody. But oh my God, that dog was so cute. I can't.
Oh, such cute doggos.
All right. Well, are we ready to tackle our main topic?
The main event, as you like to call it.
I was born ready.
All
Wonderful.
right. Well, as if you've been listening, you know that I'm a fan of The Bachelor, because I mention it like every week. um, and yeah, I have watched a few other reality dating shows as well. And we thought we would just kind of, I don't know, talk about the evolution of reality dating shows. So, yeah, where do you want to start?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I
You were the guest.
okay.
Go.
So I researched a little bit for this momentous occasion of you guys inviting me on the podcast because that's what I do. So I did a little digging into the history of reality dating shows.
Ooh,
If you're curious,
Yes.
some lore, please and thank you.
part of the reason that I did that was because I wanted to make sure that I had an accurate picture of every reality dating show I've ever watched in my life. So in doing so, I found the Wikipedia page entitled Dating Reality Shows.
Oh, yes.
And I discovered that it goes way further back than I ever realized because they consider the dating game and the newlywed game the first reality dating shows. And like my parents watched those shows in the 60s and 70s. Like I'm pretty sure they were originally in black and white. And they've had like multiple iterations over the years. You can find some gems from the newlywed game on those compilations of like terrible game show fails and stuff. But yeah, the dating game and the newlywed game.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I mean,
Yeah, that does.
Yeah, it's very different, obviously, than like 30 women getting out of a limo. It was a little bit more organized than that.
Right.
Yeah.
But kind of similar to Love is Blind in a way, which we're going to talk about later. Like 3 suitors on the other side of this wall, and the lady just asks them questions and they answer them, and that's how she picks the guy she's going to go on a date with. So really, it's coming full circle, you guys.
Yeah. Before the circle has even been shown to you, it has already come full circle. That's very interesting. Obviously I, being someone who does not consume a lot of television, much less any reality television, had like straight up forgotten about things like the newlywed game and things of that nature. So yeah, I definitely would kind of include them now that they are back at the forefront of my mind. But yeah. May I request that we start with Next?
Sure.
Okay.
So what do you want to know about Next?
I mean, I used to watch like the 2 that I requested, and I put them in all caps, like in our like organizing document. I know a little bit about both of these because I like used to watch them back when I like was younger and they were on. And I know that like Next was like basically on for like 6 seasons. And for those of you who don't didn't ever really watch like mid 2000s MTV, like this is like I want to say like probably like the peak period in which MTV's name was pretty much like had nothing to do with what the content was, other than the fact that occasionally music was played on the shows they would produce.
If you were born between the years of like 1983 and like 1994, and you weren't watching shows like Next on MTV, like what are you even doing?
Yeah. It was all about Next and Cribs and Pimp My Ride.
Which I would love to talk about Pimp My Ride someday, but I'll have to write that down.
We'll have to do another episode
reality
about
car shows. Pimp My Ride. End of list.
I would just say reality fad shows, because that was definitely like a fad that like, you know, there were a couple of other shows that tried to like capitalize on the popularity of Pimp My Ride, but we can touch that another time. Anyway, so for the uninitiated, the premise of Next is that like you'd have a person that was like going to be like the main character of said date or what have you. And then they would have their suitors, which would be probably like, you know, 5 people who were on a bus that said Next, like all along the side. It had a flashy, like, you know, flashy logo on it. And
Do you
so the
think
first,
anybody ever saw that bus just like driving around in the wild like a Wienermobile?
I fucking hoped and prayed I would one day see that bus. And I
Right?
never have. And so
It
one
probably
day,
never left LA.
No,
it's
probably
probably just
never left.
it's probably just sitting like by itself somewhere in just a fucking junkyard in LA, just
Abandoned. Yep.
abandoned. But if I ever get like a shit ton of money, I'm either going to find out what happened to that bus or I'm going to get my own. Anyway,
Or get your own.
but
You have to clear out the like owl infestation before you.
oh, I think you're being generous when you say owls, possums for sure.
Do
But
they have possums in LA? I'm not sure.
I
I'm
think they must have them.
probably
everywhere.
imported at this point. But so there would be a first person that would come off the bus and they would like do a freeze frame and be like, this is Jeremy. He collects like weird stamps. He did 62 push-ups across 14 days or something like that. And they would go and do like these like mini dates. And if the person didn't like the person, like the whoever it was that came off the bus and they wanted to move on, they would just say next and that person would be out. And then
They could say it at any time.
anytime. So there would have been a couple of times where the person would literally walk off the bus and then they'd be like, next. And they'd have to turn their sorry ass around and get back on the bus. And it almost always happened when someone was like, this chick's gonna fall in love with me. I'm the coolest. And then they do like the 2005 duck face. And then they get off the bus with their fucking frosted tips. And the girl would be like, next. And then you'd have to like turn around and be like, you're ugly anyway. Or some dumb thing that like wasn't true to like save their
Your mom
ego.
probably doesn't love you.
Yeah,
like,
just some dumb shit
really
like that.
Shit. Yeah.
So they do that, and so either the person would find like they would continue to go on these like dates if things were going well, and then they would just like leave, and then the other people on the bus were just out of luck, or they could run out of people on the bus, in which case then the dates was just over, and it was just peak wild for 2005, and I think like I said, go ahead.
The best part of Next was the little preview of who this person is. Because it wasn't just like they're a student at UCLA and they play lacrosse and they motorcycle on the weekends. It was always like they once took a dump that could be put in the Guinness Book of World Records. Or like just crazy weird shit that like no one ever needed to know about anyone.
Right. That was the best. I do feel like I know that I've seen this show, but I did not watch it a lot, if I'm being honest. But as you're describing it, I was like, I kind of wish I could date like this. Just like give me a busload of people and I'll just stand there as they come out and I'll judge them immediately.
I feel like it's human, it's like face-to-face Tinder, right?
Yeah, swipe.
Yeah, basically, like this is the prelude for Tinder. It was a show, and then someone was like, you know what, that'd be great as an app, and then they made it an app, and they ruined everyone's lives.
Yep.
But so the thing was that people like contestants that were on the bus could also next themselves, so they could be like, nah. I'm not feeling this. Yeah, I'm not feeling this. And they could be like, bye, I'm nexting myself or whatever. So there were a couple of times where like the person would get all the way to the end of the date and they'd be like, so like, I think I would like to go on like, you know, I would like to see you after this or whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, next. And then they'd get back on the bus and be like, I nexted them or whatever. Like, so the drama could go both ways and it was hilarious.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
I remember this being one of the first times that I was exposed to like same-sex relationships because it was rare. There was, I believe, one episode of two females where it was like a lesbian that was getting other girls coming off of the bus, and then one episode with gay guys. But it was just like so pure, like so sweet and so nice. Like they didn't want to next anybody, and it was so great. And
like kudos to MTV because they like didn't really make it a big fucking deal. They were just like, it was just like a normal episode of Next, and you're like, oh, it's all ladies on this bus, and the main contestant is a lady.
Yeah, the only thing was that it was like not just one, you know. Like I wish there would have been more.
Yeah.
Right, but like they didn't necessarily like play it up to be like, check out what crazy thing we're gonna do. We're gonna have same sex couples. It was just like, yeah, there's same sex couples. Here you go. And it was just
Exactly.
like, okay. So like, kind of like you, Amber. It was very. I fell in that same kind of like thing, and then it was like I think that's kind of what helped me like accept it as a kid. As a kid, and by kid I mean like I was in my teen years or whatever. Not to say that I didn't accept same-sex relationships in my younger, but it was like it wasn't made a big deal, so like it like I didn't really see like the problem with it, if that makes sense. Like
you weren't exposed to it much before that, so it was helpful exposure.
yeah, I wouldn't say I wasn't exposed to that much, but like I'm talking about like from a standpoint beyond like my own like small bubble, like when like seeing it on TV and then being like, this is no big fucking deal, basically was like, oh, cool. Like I've experienced that in my own worldview, but to see it on a broader scale was like, it's just solidified my feelings, I guess, about it. I kind of went roundabout to say that fucking sentence, but there it was.
One other thing I remember about Next is that there was a time count in the corner, so that you could see how long this person would be on a date before they'd next someone. And like if it got above like 15 minutes, you're like, all right, this is really going somewhere. But like it would flash like red if they nexted somebody right away.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I would definitely. This is a show that like if we could track down an episode or two, I would definitely like be like, we have to sit down and watch.
Obviously.
Yeah. I don't know why I said what I said, but we should definitely watch it like an episode or two together. I think it'd be hilarious. But
so great.
Did you watch any of the other MTV dating shows that were on during that time?
Name some of them, because I might have, but I just don't remember.
Okay, trust. I put them on my list.
Ooh.
So we had Date My Mom.
No.
A Parental Control. So they had so they had broken with a significant other for some reason or another. And so then their parents each got to choose one person for them to go on a date with. And then at the end, they have to choose whether they're going to go with mom's pick, dad's pick, or get back with their ex. And so while this person is going on these 2 dates, mom, dad, and the ex are watching them.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It wouldn't necessarily like be an ex, but it would be like a deadbeat like girlfriend or boyfriend in some cases.
Yes.
So like it would be
my parents think I should break up with this shitty ass
dude.
Dude, like he mooches off me and he eats all my food and he's an asshole to my friends, but my parents think I can do better.
Yeah. So it'd be like this girl who's like, I'm in love with Brendan, and Brendan's like, Cheryl's fucking parents suck dick. Like, just like
pretty much. And he would be like an outward asshole to her parents. While
they
were watching her go on this other date. Like, by the way, I never liked your cooking, Marsha. Like, just so aggressive. And the dad would usually just be like, fucking pussy. Like, just hating him.
Just want to slap the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
And then you would like get to watch like as the person would be like, you know what? Brendan's really not that great. I'm going to go out with Josh. And then the parents are like, yeah, fucking get out, Brendan. He's like, fucking your daughter's stupid anyway. Like,
yes.
or they'd be like, I'm actually going to stay with Brendan. And the parents are like, fuck, we're stuck with this asshole. I can't believe I forgot about Parental Control. That show, like, it was probably, if I had to wager, the most heavily like scripted or the least reality of the reality shows that I remember. Because I feel like that was just like, I just felt like it, like maybe there was some loose things to it, but it was just like, hey, we'll give you like, $400 to pretend that you hate this girl's parents or whatever.
Totally.
But like,
oh my god.
The other one that I loved was Room Raiders.
I vaguely remember Room Raiders.
So Room Raiders, they would kidnap these people under seemingly false pretenses and make them think they were like getting arrested. But then they would just drive around in a van.
Lots of vans on MTV.
So many vans.
There's just a fleet of vans somewhere that were once owned by MTV and are just like, I used to be someone.
Or it's all the same van and they just like recover it all the time.
Custom vehicle wraps.
Yeah.
But they would like go the best part of Room Raiders. So they'd go into different people's rooms and like, go through their drawers and their closets and like try and disseminate what this person was like from what their bedroom looks like. But the best part of every episode of Room Raiders was when they would take the black light.
Oh no, that's
I
right.
forgot. I remember this. Oh, I'm cringing hard right now. Oof.
And just see what came up.
Oh no.
Like, don't ever do that in a hotel, my friends.
Now, remind me, Amber, because you probably were a bit more into the Room Raider lore than me. They never really did the blacklight thing on anything but like the dudes' rooms, right?
I feel like that's accurate.
Okay.
Like, that was where kind of the like sexist vibe of some of these shows came out, was like, of course a girl's not going to have any gross stains on her bed, but if a girl goes into a guy's room, because these people are all like 20, like, oh, this guy's definitely going to have some gross stains.
But like on the flip side of the coin, though, they would definitely have like these dudes like going in this girl's like dresser drawers and pulling out like her thong or whatever, and it's just like
100%.
And I'm just like, my dude, oof.
Ooh, she must be a bad girl. Like,
yeah.
What does underwear have to do with anything?
Let people wear thongs and be whatever they want. Who cares?
Okay, so this discussion makes me think of the only reality show, dating show that I actually really watched on MTV, which is the OG, Singled Out.
I'm pretty sure I'm too young for Singled Out.
You are too young for Singled Out because it started in 1995.
I was gonna say you definitely are, and I can't believe because Pamela Anderson was on Singled Out, wasn't she? Like, or am I thinking? I might be thinking of a different.
She might have been.
No, you know who I'm thinking of? I'm getting her confused with the woman that I don't ever want to talk about, Jenny McCarthy. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And then they replaced her with Carmen Electra. Okay.
Yes.
I just looked this up.
So, Singled Out was a reality game show with Chris Hardwick and those women. And it is biggest claim to fame, I feel like, is being on an episode of Boy Meets World. Where Eric gets to be on the show. And I don't remember a lot about it. I just remember being in 5th grade and sleeping over at my friend Whitney's house all the time and drinking Surge and watching MTV because I wasn't allowed to. So we would watch Singled Out and Daria. And like, that's what I remember. And yeah, that show was also just super classy.
Hey,
as all MTV shows are.
Can I say something to you, Amelia?
Yes.
You cannot talk about this show in the past tense.
Oh, that's right.
It is. They had it for a bit on YouTube. MTV did in 2018, and Quibi is going to be showing it as of this upcoming spring, and Keke Palmer is going to host.
No. No.
It's back.
Yikes. No. Ugh.
Sorry, didn't mean to like step all over your commentary on it, but I was just like reading about it, and I was like, it said Singled Out is an American, and I said, is?
Oh, yikes. That's a thing.
We didn't talk about what Singled Out is at all, really, but
not really. Well. I mean, I don't remember a lot about it. I just remember that it was like a whole crowd of people, and the person like that would want to date all of these people had to like pick different traits off of a board that they wanted, and so anybody who didn't fit that would get out. I just don't remember that much about it. I just remember the like very 90s aesthetic of it.
Yeah. I'm obviously looking at the Wikipedia article for Singled Out, but like, it went through different iterations, so I'm not really going to try and like describe what it's about. If you're really that curious, you can check out the Singled Out wiki page because it goes through different kind of versions of it. I will just say that specifically pointing out that since the 2018 version has come up, they tried to modernize it, and they're also doing a more quote unquote inclusive tolerance towards LGBTQ plus segments. So good on them for realizing what the fuck they need to be doing to stay relevant in 2020. But
Yep. So,
you
all
don't need
right.
them.
So, blind date now.
Yeah, we can
Remind me
cover
what
it.
blind date is.
Blind Date was a show in which they would straight up, like, it would, as its name would suggest, it would be a blind date between two people, typically male and a female, and it was hosted by Roger Lodge, who, like, that's the only thing I've ever seen him in, and probably only everything I will ever see him in, but that's neither here nor there. But they would do like subtitles, animations, and like thought bubbles, like going on during the date and shit
Yes.
like that.
Oh my God,
And
it was like the pop-up video of reality dating shows.
yes,
They're
yes,
really good.
that is 100% like accurate, I think, to what Blind Date was. And
Oh, yes.
the funny thing about it is that number one, that's another show that is apparently coming back. Number two,
Oh, of course.
they had like a like TV version, and then they had like a, if you like go to fucking what's the name of those, like trying to think of those stores that aren't around anymore that would just like almost exclusively sell DVDs.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Like
There's one,
Sam Goody?
yeah, almost like Sam Goody, like the ones that would like also like for whatever reason sell like Playboy DVDs and shit like that under like, they'd have like black like acrylic over them that all you'd have to do is just move it, and you're just like, oh, this is porn. Like they had like a version that would just show like the wildest dates and like stuff like that, and I like proudly owned like a trilogy of it because it was
my God.
Yeah, I'm admitting that out loud. It was like dates where the person was just like so bizarre. Like there was one where this girl like wouldn't stop talking about pork rinds for an entire date. Like, and they put up like a counter, it was like pork rind date, and she pork rind counter, and she'd be like, I want some pork rinds, and it's like ding, it's like another time, and this guy was like just trying anything he could to like get away from her, and like she just was like following him like all along like the streets of LA or whatever, or just like, you know, people just getting just so blackout drunk, or just like the creepiest, skeeziest dudes just getting shut down, or just all like, it was just chef's kiss in terms of like peak 90s, just raunchy debauchery nonsense. And I loved it. And I'm sure if I went hunting real hard, I could probably find them in my parents' house someplace.
Yes. Okay. The Wikipedia page says that there is 100 and wait, I can't read. It says that there's 1,450 plus episodes of Blind Date.
There's probably multiple, like they've probably made it in multiple countries.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but it says number of seasons 8.
I think maybe they're counting it because wasn't it like a double? Every episode was a half hour, but it was like a double.
Yeah, they might like split them up because it's like they would do each date could technically be like an episode. You know what I mean? They do like at least 2 an episode.
The Wikipedia page is like shockingly
bare,
and it makes me really sad. But yeah, it's back on Bravo.
If I can find the DVDs, I will bring them and we can watch some of them and we can cringe together, because like I'm sure like nowadays I'd be like, this is disgusting. Why did I like this as a kid? But like
I also remember like a lot of hot tub stuff happening in Date.
Yep,
because I remember watching, I, like Amelia, was not allowed to watch any of this until today. Like, my parents were very conservative about this kind of thing. I would watch MTV in the basement at a very low volume with my finger on the last channel button.
So
that I wouldn't get caught, which I'm sure my parents knew. But I would like get up in the middle of the night, you know, like if you're not feeling well or whatever, and you turn the TV on, like there's infomercials, but then there was Blind Date.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is definitely like a show that was on like after, like if you were staying up over the weekend and your parents were just like, well, we're still adults and we have to work and stuff, or like we're just tired from the week, so we're going to bed at 10, you could stay up and watch Blind Date. Like,
yeah, it was on at like 11 and 11:30 on UPN or something.
Yes, I remember this. Oh my God.
So yeah, Well,
But
maybe we could do some sort of thing where we just watch an episode of Blind Date and just talk about how awful it
oh my
is.
God, we should do that. That would be so great. So speaking of really cringy late night dating shows,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I had to put baggage on the list.
Yes, you did, because Steph
Shout
would
out to
be upset with
Steph.
you.
Um, and one time when I was visiting you guys in Milwaukee, we stayed up late and we discovered baggage, and it is so good in the worst way. Um, it's this show with
Jerry Springer hosts it.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Jerry Springer hosts it,
which just tells you everything you need to know right
it
there.
really does. But basically, it's sort of a dating game type situation where it's one person and then three people that they're trying to choose between, and they do that by like going through their quote unquote baggage. So it's like finding out before you barely have met somebody, like their biggest things about them that like keep them from dating essentially, or that like are usually deal breakers for other people. And it is just so deliciously cringy.
Mm-hmm.
And you are just so sure that it is scripted. And I would bet that nobody actually goes on the dates afterwards. Because that's what it is. Like the final two people go to dinner or something. That's what they always say. And it's just like, oh, it's so perfect for 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm. So, I actually remember reading a while ago about like it was like an AMA for someone who worked on baggage, and they talked about how like basically what it was is that like the producers would have a very extensive interview with the contestant, and in some cases they would just kind of like grab onto something where it would be like, oh, like I lived with me and like a couple of roommates, but I moved out to like help take care of my mom because she developed like brain cancer or something that was like really like a logical reason to be like, okay, I can understand why you would like move out and like live with your mom because you're taking care of her because she's like, she has like this horrible illness. But then like their baggage would be like, I've lived at home with my mom for 7 years, and it's like, yeah, but this is why, you know what I mean? But you don't get
Right.
the
Yeah,
you
they
don't get
wouldn't
the
give you the
context.
context.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And then at the end, the original person would have their baggage, and so then the contestant that they picked would have to like agree to accept their baggage.
Right.
And it was just, oh my God. Like here's one. Ryan may have bathed in his church baptismal pool, defaced his church's altar, or had sex in his church's confessional.
I loved that they gave you those like options. Like,
yeah,
here's 3 things that his baggage could possibly be.
Right.
Of course you bathed in your baptismal font as an infant when you were baptized.
Right. Here we go. Mario may refuse to use deodorant or toothpaste. He may clean body freezers for a living, or he may have spent 4 of the last 6 years in prison.
As a prison guard.
Right. Like, yeah, they never give you the context. So,
and sometimes you wouldn't really get a good opportunity to like give your context or whatever, or they'd they wouldn't let you embellish it. You just like, you could say that like, yeah, I've lived with my mom for 7 years, but like you couldn't on the show say like why. It would just be like, it's comfortable for me. Like that's what would have to be what your answer is, because you can't say like, oh, brain cancer, like.
Right.
I want to know if, hey, any of y'all that are like listening to this podcast, you should tweet at us and tell us about like your favorite, like, reality dating show, and like what, like if it was like a show like Baggage, like tell us about it. ASWAYDPOD on Twitter. I want to know. Tell me all the delicious deets about your favorite stuffs.
I don't have Twitter, so I'm going to tell you right now what my current obsession is. And it is the wildest ride I have ever been on. And it is called Married at First Sight.
My wife loves, at least I will say loved, if not currently loves this show. So, but I have almost no context for it. So hit me.
So it's pretty much what it sounds like. These people have agreed to undergo this experiment, which I feel like is a recurring theme among these reality dating shows. They call it an experiment.
Big
and
deal.
I want to know what anthropologist, sociologist, whatever, who's conducting this experiment? Because like
ABC
Studios.
Studios.
It sounds like the pinnacle of scientific discovery, these fucking reality shows.
Yes.
But Married at First Sight is a social experiment where these people enter into this pool, essentially, and then they have these experts. They have a psychologist, they have a sex therapist, they have a spiritual advisor, and like a relationship therapist. And they match up 3 heterosexual couples, and the first time they meet each other is when they meet at the altar. And so you can only imagine, like, this is immediately based on physical attraction. And I have taken to placing bets with my fiance as to, like, which of the couples is going to be the one where the girl walks down the aisle and is like, ew. Because it happens every season. I've watched 3 seasons, and it has happened every single season where she's like, I'm not attracted to him at all. And then she's questioning her entire involvement in this experiment because she doesn't immediately find this guy attractive. So that's just like the first episode, tip of the iceberg. So then they have to continue on to be married, to like play house. So they go on a honeymoon. And then they come home and they have to decide where they're going to live. Are they going to move into each other's places? Are they going to get a new place? And that has been very interesting because the first 2 seasons take place like in the New York City area. And in season 2, there's a couple where he lives on Long Island and she lives in Jersey. And they're like 3.5 hours apart. So there's no way that one or the other of them can live at the other person's house. So they have to find somewhere in the middle where they're going to move. And so they're showing them like apartment hunting and all this stuff. And like me being the cynic that I am, questions all of these like production things, right? Like, are they really giving up their apartments?
Right? I know, that's what I would want to know.
Like, are they signing a real lease on a real apartment, or is this something that, like, production found this vacant apartment? Because these landlords that they show are just, like, they look like they picked up some dude off the corner, and they were like, do you want to make a quick $50? Pretend like you're the landlord and show these people this apartment. But so then they do this for 6 weeks, and at the end of the 6 weeks they have to decide whether they're going to stay married or get divorced. And the first 2 seasons I made the mistake of like Googling stuff and I got spoiled, but season 3 I was like, no, I'm not going to get spoiled. And I was so invested in it. Like, I legitimately cared whether Trey and Vanessa were going to stay together. Because, like, they were such a good match. And, like, they communicated so well and got along so well with each other's families that I was like, I can't imagine them breaking up. And then the nice thing is that they give us a 6 months later update.
Oh, thank God.
Like, okay, they stayed married after 6 weeks, but, like, are they still together?
Right.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I feel like that's kind of like the crux and the appeal of a lot of these dating shows is that, like, they're learning about, like, who their potential partner is going to be, but you are learning about them too. So it's easy to get invested about this person that you feel like you're getting to know. You know what I mean? Like, which is, I'm sure stuff that both of you know, and I'm sure a bunch of our audience knows as well. But it's like, you know, I am not really a person that watches much TV, much less any sort of reality shows. But like, you know, when I was watching shows like this, it's like you're getting to know these people, even if it is for like 5 seconds when someone is like, they're getting off the bus and then like this girl like looks at them with like the most disgusted look on their face, and then they just laugh out loud and go next, and then the guy has to like get back out. Like, you still get to learn a lot about both of them in that image. So it's almost like you're making a connection with them, like as a faceless person beyond a screen who is watching this, you know, 6 months to a year after it initially happened in some cases. So that's the great appeal of it.
I think that's where like some of the appeal for shows for like the whole Bachelor franchise comes from is because it just keeps like cycling, that usually the next Bachelorette comes from the Bachelor, and it
Right.
just keeps cycling on and on. And it's because, and you keep watching because you've gotten to know that person, and so then you care about their season.
Yep.
Or, as most of us know, we don't care about it at all except for Paradise. And so we get to know these people on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and then we follow them to Paradise.
You do care less about the people from Bachelor in Paradise that were on. Sometimes they bring people in from like foreign Bachelor franchises.
Yep, and you're
just like,
this?
go away. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know you. I don't want you to get with Raven because I don't know you.
Right. Yeah. Whereas I know Raven intimately after 12 weeks of being on The Bachelor. Yeah. Yeah. That's part of it. But I also think the appeal is because so often these are quote unquote like social experiments or whatever. So it is married at first sight, or it's meeting somebody in the midst of 30 people in a like 3-month span. There's always something like really unnatural about it. And so it's like fascinating to watch because it's like, what is this really like? How does this really work? Does it really work?
It's very interesting to me because it's like it's a challenge of a taboo that we have here in America. But like, if you think about it, really, like people over in India are like, this is our culture, and you turned it into a fucking reality show, you know, like because a bunch of them have like arranged marriages and like they don't meet the person until like the day before their wedding, you know, like that kind of like, you know, so like it's kind of interesting in that regard that like we're just like, look how fucking crazy it is to like see never see somebody until their wedding day, and like cultures all over the world are just like, yeah, fucking bizarre, right? Anyway, this is my wife that I've been married to for 35 years, and we literally met like 10 minutes before the wedding.
There was a guy. There was a guy in the 3rd season of Married at First Sight that was half Indian. His mom and grandma were at his wedding, and they told his new bride, like, this is what we do, and it works. I mean, that's a culture that divorce isn't necessarily as much of an option, I feel like they don't really have a choice, right? Like it's culturally not really as accepted in a lot of those countries where arranged marriages are common. So they're like, well, we have no choice but to make it work. And like, who knows what goes on behind closed doors? Like maybe they have a great marriage, maybe they don't. But like you said, like it's just normal to them.
There's a really good book that I read some time ago, and I'm not necessarily co-signing the comedian anymore, but like Aziz Ansari's like modern, is it like modern? I think it's called Modern Romance or what have you. Like, because he like took some time out and like legit did a study and like talked to various people about like how they ended up meeting their significant other, and like, you know, when around the time that like his parents were growing up, it would be like, well, you probably found somebody that lived in your same apartment building, you know, from like they were just like 2 blocks away or whatever. You didn't really look like, because that's who was readily available. So it's like it didn't really, you know, it's like it didn't matter if your quote unquote true soulmate was, you know, on the other side of the country, the other side of the world. Like they're not accessible. So you find someone who is accessible. And now we live in a society where it's like, you could right now stop listening to this podcast and like start quote unquote like looking for a date from somebody that
on Filipino Cupid.
You could do that, or you could like literally go on like an e-date. Like you could just be like, that podcast was a pretty good time. Anyway, let me turn on this camera and I'm just gonna like blind date somebody like through anything. Like, and it doesn't even have to be date. You could just like fucking just you know, please yourself or whatever by going on Chatterbait or some bullshit. Like, like you could just do that now, and it's like that wasn't a thing at all going up. But anyway, that's my plug.
I think that's a valid point that like some of these things that we have made like a spectacle are another person's culture. But I also wonder, and like I've read that book too, Aziz's book, and I really liked it. And I would still recommend it, even though there's some questionable things that we can talk about at another time.
Yeah.
But I think that whole idea of like now pretty much anybody is accessible rather than just like the people in your town or whatever. I think that having too many options is a problem, but I also think
Yes.
that not having enough options is a problem
Yeah.
because, again, like part of the reason why divorce rates have gone up, well, they've kind of staggered off a little bit lately, but like part of the reason divorce rates have gone up is that as it becomes more culturally acceptable to get divorced, people are getting out of shitty abusive marriages.
Yes.
So
Which is
just
great.
because, yes, which is a good thing. So, you know, you have to take those two things and say like, okay, being able to date anybody around the world is maybe a little too much. Because then it creates problems of like, well, there's somebody better out there always.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it's better to not have to limit yourself to just your apartment building or whatever. And what's helpful about arranged marriages and about like this show Married at First Sight is that they have these people like interviewing you and getting to know you and like figuring out who should be together. And like with arranged marriages, it's like families put you together. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's at least some conscious effort of like finding somebody who's maybe going to fit with you or like work with you or something.
Yeah.
And that's common in that show for people to keep saying, you know, the experts matched us for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when there is a disconnect with the initial physical attraction level,
Mm-hmm.
where she walks down the aisle and she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen, and she doesn't think that he's anything special. It's usually the female saying like, well, the experts matched us for a reason, so I guess like I'm gonna stick to this and find out what that reason is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but speaking of Filipino Cupid, one of our favorite shows to watch together is 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days. So 90 Day Fiancé is like this ridiculously large franchise on TLC.
Which, as my fiance likes to say, where did we go wrong that TLC used to be called the Learning Channel?
I learned a lot.
I agree with him.
Before watching 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, I did not realize that there was such a dating site as Filipino Cupid. Okay.
I just found that out here on this podcast, so we also
Exactly.
learn.
There are several countries, but that one has become near and dear to our hearts because of one particular gentleman who just kept saying it over and over and over again about how he met his girlfriend on Filipino Cupid. So there's several iterations of this show, but the one that we watch is Before the 90 Days, and it's basically like a couple that has met probably online, and the American is going to the foreign country to meet this person for the first time.
Okay.
So the reason it's called Before the 90 Days is because if you apply for a visa as, you know, a Filipino Cupid dress, she moves to the States, and then within 90 days they have to get married for her to like get her green card.
Yeah.
Right.
So for her to keep her visa.
Correct.
Not even to get her green card. That's even harder.
So before the 90 days is like before they've gone through the process of applying for this visa, this green card, whatever it may be,
mm-hmm.
they are meeting in person for the first time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they've video chatted, written letters, talked on the phone. Sometimes they've never done any of those things.
Yep.
And that always makes us convinced that the person in America is being catfished.
Oh, for sure.
We have never seen a catfish because that's a different show that we
Right.
don't watch.
Right.
But we're convinced always.
Yeah.
If this guy in Georgia is saying, I've got this girl and she's Ukrainian and she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, but he's only ever seen pictures that she's texted. He's not video chatted with her or heard her voice on the phone. We're like, yep, it is a hairy dude in some internet cafe in Kiev, like laughing his ass off about all the money that he's stealing from this guy.
Right.
Because they always are like flat broke.
They always are, and it's
because
like,
they've sent this person so
Hmm.
much money. There's a
This
guy on the
sounds
most recent
so heavy like Catfish, just so heavy like
oh, it is a lot like Catfish.
There's a
but...
guy on the most recent season that we watched, and his name is Caesar, and he is just
Caesar.
the saddest soul. He is a nail technician. He works at a nail salon. He cares so much about his job, but he works there every single second that it's open so that he can send money to Maria, his fiance in Russia.
Ooh.
Yep.
He is bled dry. He has so much credit card debt.
Yep.
And we're not even convinced that Maria is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Like, he eats ramen exclusively.
Right. And every time they talk about meeting, it never happens.
She always has some really shoddy excuse.
Yep.
About, oh, I forgot it's my mom's birthday. And you can't come here. Or it's the winter time and it's cold. You should come in the summer when it's nice.
Or you should buy us tickets to Mexico. And then he went to Mexico and she did not come.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one was really sad.
That's hard.
But a lot of them do go to the country and meet the person. Sometimes we're still dubious that the person in the foreign country actually cares about the American. That it isn't just this is how I get out of my village that you can only get to by boat in South America.
That is such a common thread of that they are from not necessarily a third world country, but less desirable circumstances than they think that they'll move to in America.
Yep.
And that's what they talk about to their talking heads when they're talking directly to the camera is their goal is the American dream or what they envision as the American dream.
Yep.
And they just think Americans have all this money and they have all this privilege and all this opportunity. So it's not necessarily about moving to America to be with the person that you love and want to spend the rest of your life with. It's having a better life.
Right. Yeah. And you can tell the stark contrast because then occasionally there is somebody that they're going to fly to meet in England or France or somewhere that's more comparable, I guess, to the US. And those people, you can tell it's not necessarily about moving to America or whatever. It is about the person. Sometimes it just depends. But
Jeez, you guys are blowing my mind hole here.
But it is, oh my God, the drama is just excellent.
There's a woman that has been on multiple seasons at this point. Her name is Darcy. She has now had 2 different men.
Yep.
That she has visited in Europe.
Yep.
The first guy was from the Netherlands.
Yep.
And he did come to the States at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And then they broke it off, which thank God, because their relationship was toxic.
It was so toxic.
And then she starts talking to this guy that apparently she's known for years, but now they've rekindled their flame or some shit. And so she goes to England to meet him. And it's just, she is a train wreck on wheels, man. She's nuts. And she's apparently going to be on, again, the new season just premiered on Sunday.
Yep.
And Amelia and I make a point to watch this show together. So if we have a backlog, that's okay because it's not as fun. This particular reality show, we just need to be together to marvel at the...
Right. It's something you have to talk through.
Yes.
And react to while you watch it. Because we discovered this show on our first friend vacation to Orlando, where we stayed in one night and watched it was the regular. No, it was the after. The Happily Ever After.
Yes.
The 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After ?
Okay. So it's like section kind of. They did a pre and post kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's people who have come to the US under that 90-day visa and gotten married and then what happens after that. And we got really into that because it was a marathon, because TLC knows what it's doing and does these marathons, and that's how you get sucked in. And then we tried to watch it on our own and we were like, this is boring. And then we discovered Before the 90 Days and are living for it. basically.
Okay. Before we continue, I have to throw this in here because Steph, my wife, will be upset if it's not mentioned because we did mention Catfish earlier. There's one bit from Catfish that I know she's probably been hoping and praying that I would bring up, and it was probably the most ridiculous reason I think I've ever seen someone get catfished before. So it was this guy who thought he was meeting. He's a very, very flamboyant guy. Thought he was meeting this super, super hunky guy with a deep voice. And he had like his cousin kind of like going along the ride with him as they were like trying to figure out where this Tony guy is. And then they go to this house, and Steph is probably like screaming because I'm like just kind of like glossing over a lot of details. But anyway, it's like a huge wild goose chase. They go to this house, they knock on it, and then the cousin is finally like, well, you're not going to find Tony because I am Tony. And the guy's like, what? Like, how are you Tony? And then it turns out the reason that this cousin, who at least to me looked female presenting, was decided to catfish their own cousin was because he called her or them, and I quote, a fat ass Kelly Price. And then Neve asks the question, so where did the Tony voice come from? And they go, what, the Tony voice? And it sounded like exactly like the voicemails and stuff that like this guy had saved. And it's like the wildest shit of my life. Like
he was catfished by his own cousin?
Yes.
Oh my God.
What the
and it was revenge for calling them a quote unquote fat ass Kelly Price.
Oh my God.
Like this offhanded ass comment, like, you know, and the cousin had been with them the entire trip, like through Neve and Max's arrival and like talking back and forth. So apparently like maybe there was like one other person that was involved to like help build the illusion so that the cousin wasn't like, you know, just like slyly like texting on their phone whenever a message from quote unquote Tony was supposed to get thrown. But like it's absolutely fucking wild, and I'm sure it's made like some of the best of Catfish episodes that they put out.
Sure.
But I was like, Steph will kill me if we don't talk about that. If I don't talk about
Did
that.
they do any sort of follow up like on the relationship? Like,
I don't
was there
remember
any fallout from it?
I believe the only thing that I remember is that like obviously that person and their cousin don't talk anymore.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That is wild.
I love it.
But yeah, it's hilarious. Catfish is we could probably do our own episode just on Catfish. That would be my wager because there's just so many like it follows the same archetype.
On any of these.
Well, probably
okay,
not.
Maybe not next.
Probably not next. I feel like we've covered pretty much everything you need to know about next. But like Catfish is just like such a way in that like there's so many like, you know, tropes that happen during an episode of Catfish, but it's like since it's so many different people and so many different situations, like the variables just get into like the millions to the point where like, you know, things can happen and like there have been, you know, just all sorts of things, but like that one stands out to me in my mind of like reasons for like, because you know, like you were talking about like in 90 Day Fiance, like, you know, it could be financially motivated. It could be like they were bullied and they wanted to like get revenge on somebody, or they, you know,
right.
Or it's just like they were lonely and didn't think anyone would like them who they were, and like you kind of see like what happens there. But like just straight up for like an offhanded like insult, like you just like hatch a plan, like
God, it's so
convoluted. To do this. Yeah, it's incredibly
some, like,
convoluted.
Pretty Little Liars level shit.
Exactly. So, I think that is probably a good point to like kind of get off that and into like what I would probably consider the actual main event. I don't know how y'all feel about it. We are going to talk about Love Is Blind now, I think, if that's okay with y'all.
Can I just say?
Yes.
So, Amelia approached me to ask me if I would be on this episode, and then a couple of days ago she said we're gonna watch the first episode of Love Is Blind, and I was like, okay, yeah, I have time to do that, I'll watch it. And then she texted me after she watched it and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I can only watch the first episode. Like, after watching this one, I just want to watch them all. And I was like, whatever. And then I watched it yesterday and I was like yelling at my TV and had to pause it so many times. And my fiance got into it and sat down and was asking all these questions.
You got the hook in your cheek there?
And I just wanted to keep watching. Like,
Yep.
I just want to leave right now, like, peace out and go continue to watch. Because that season trailer, like,
yes,
even if I didn't have the season trailer, I would be hooked and I would want to keep watching it. But that season trailer was bananas.
Okay, so did both of y'all watch like the season trailer thing?
Yes.
Okay, because I deliberately skipped it because I was like,
okay.
Well, okay, because
let's talk about the first episode.
No. I mean, so like because the reason that I skipped it is because like I don't really watch Netflix that much, but I know what Netflix does, and they do that's their game, and I totally get it.
100%.
But I didn't want to have on a show that was basically about them falling in love blindly. I didn't want to have any sort of hints. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to see if I could figure it out because what I imagined they were going to do is like show shit that they weren't going to cover in the first episode. So you could be like, wait, how do X, Y, Z get together? Like what the fuck happened? Like, and so I deliberately skipped it, and I know that they show it both at the beginning and the end of the episode. So I was like, la 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 la, like hit mute, and like walked away as soon as I could.
Gotcha.
So
the one thing I appreciated about that season trailer after the first episode was that I had a lot of questions throughout the episode as I was taking copious notes about like the process, like questions about what the process is going to look like, and I feel like a lot of those questions were answered as I was watching the trailer. Like, okay, do they have to wait to meet each other, which obviously we established at the end of the first episode, but like you know, and like I didn't anticipate all of like I thought the whole season was just going to be them talking in these pods.
Oh, same. Yeah. Okay,
same
so like
here.
let's back up a second.
Yeah.
So this just came out like a week ago, 2 weeks ago or something, and I feel like literally everybody I know has been watching this.
Same.
And so when we decided to do this episode about reality dating shows, I was like, I feel like we need to watch this newest sensation. But obviously we didn't have time to watch it all, and the last episode isn't even out yet. So so we were like, okay, let's watch episode 1 and we'll talk about that to kind of like bring things full circle, which they did. So if you have not seen the show, which I feel like everybody who's listening to this has either watched the whole thing already and is gonna be like, oh my god, you guys need to watch more.
Shout out to Jess.
Is never gonna watch it. Or has heard all about it and is never gonna watch it, but whatever. It's these people that talk to each other in these pods and they can't see each other, and I didn't get until halfway through the episode, which I probably just missed it, but that like at any time they can propose, and once they do that, then they can see each other in person.
But it seemed like there was a waiting period for that.
Okay. Yeah, there was a waiting period between the proposal and seeing each other. It wasn't like they proposed and then the wall just went up or something.
That's what I thought was going to happen, honestly.
Yeah, I did too.
That would be kind of interesting, because then like you would get like a
immediate
you can't hide your reaction, like because like for the uninitiated, they basically build it up as a thing like, okay, once a proposal happens, I will see you tomorrow. And then it's like at this time, and they build it up to be this thing, which I kind of wish they hadn't. Like, I think that your idea of like them pulling up the wall without telling them gives you some sort of
really interesting.
It would have given a different reaction that I think would have been really appreciative. And I just wanted to interject real quick to throw out there, at least initially, at least throughout this first episode, I was convinced they were going to do like some like shock value, ridiculous, like I'm going to say bullshit. It's not really bullshit, but like something where like a guy says something like really awful to like a lady, and they kind of just show this guy just stumbling awfully through these like awkward ass dates. And they did not do that, at least not in this first episode. And I like, honestly, I'm going to like throw my lead out a little bit there. That is what makes me want to continue to watch it. Because if they had done like they had done like a watch this fucking asshole. I'm gonna point him out. His name, I think his name is John.
Right.
He said
It's
like some
watching bad auditions on American Idol is basically what you're comparing it to.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like they can get their kicks out of it or whatever, and people like if you enjoy that, then do you. I'm not gonna yuck any yums. But like they showed one guy say something really off color to a lady, and she was like immediately put off by it, and I was like, am I gonna like? Is half of this going to be me watching this fucking fool named John just like awkwardly being like, you sound hot, you sound black, you sound like you've got big tits, like you know, like right. if I was subjected to that, I might be like, you know what, now shine.
No thanks.
Yeah, my question was like, okay, so that guy seemed like kind of a douche in the little interaction that we saw him have with other females. Do you think that if he didn't make a connection with anyone, which I would be surprised if he made a connection with anyone, that he leaves?
I kind of would be interested to see how they handle that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I don't know how that works.
Yeah, so like that is kind of what gets, because like I said, like the majority of me does not want to see John do another date for as long as I live. But I also want to see like how they handle it.
Else.
Right.
Yeah, I think they said he was like 38 or whatever. There were a couple of guys that like tried to like subvert the experiment by being like, so can you describe what you look like? Like, fucking dude, like that's the whole point of this, is that they're not like they drill it into these people's heads, and they say it to us as the viewer like a million times, like it's not about physical attraction, it's about personality. So like ask questions about like what the fuck they like to do and shit. Like, don't be like, so what color is your hair? Like, fucking don't. Like,
but I think I also like, I get it in the sense that like, it isn't just like, what do you like to do for fun and stuff? Like, they were getting into some deep questions like pretty early on. And I think that's smart. And like, cause I always have trouble with these shows of being like, oh my God, how are they supposed to fall in love in 2 months or 5 days, as the case was in this?
It was 4
days. Okay. Some dude proposes within 4 days, and I was like, I just can't. Like, I just don't understand. And this is where I want to know more about the logistics of like, how much time do they actually spend talking to each other?
Yes, because there's no timer, there's no like anything for you to know.
No,
I think they have set periods of time in the pod.
Yes.
Because at one point, Jessica says to Barnett, I've been on 4 solid hours of dates. And that makes me think she's had 4 one-hour blocks with 4 different guys, like trying to suss them out.
Right.
And then they get a length of time.
But it could be that she was,
agree upon
going on longer.
Jessica and Barnett meeting in pod 1 at 4 p.m. and they have an hour. Because it seems very formulaic in that sense that they don't get to lay there and talk to each other for 6 hours.
No, it doesn't seem like
it. And I feel like that's part of the experiment too, is the like, when am I going to get to talk to them next? And thinking about them and what are they doing? And are they talking to other girls? Are they thinking about me?
Right. I mean, which is part of the formula of The Bachelor, right? So, but I also feel like even if it is just like an hour block or whatever, I don't know, it just seems like more time spent together than like a fucking Bachelor group date or something.
Because it's one-on-one time where they're constantly having a conversation. They're not doing any sort of activity unless they're drinking alcohol or doodling in their notebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're just talking to each other.
Right. And I always have trouble with these shows being like, how are you supposed to fall in love so fast? That doesn't seem like it actually works. And you know, these shows have had some success and some not. So, but at the same time, I was like, okay, if I wasn't on such a limited timeline, this pod dating situation seems like perfect for me.
I mean, it does very much seem ideal, because it's like for better, obviously it's got its pros and its cons, in the sense that like you may develop like some sort of false feelings for someone because like you're in an isolated environment, like see showmances, like, you know, like people like fall heavy in love during shows, but then like once they get back into the real world, it's like, oh, I was really just in love with that person because they were my, you know, basically the majority of my social interactions for a month and a half. You know what I mean? So like, but like for better on the sense that like you're getting to know that person on a deep like emotional level, and there's no distractions in the way. So like you're just straight up like learning about that person and learning if you have a connection, and you're asking questions that you probably wouldn't ask on a normal date until like the 5th or 6th date. And like we're talking, that's probably like a 3-month span, like, you know, with how busy people are. So like you're basically taking out all the distractions, all the other bullshit, and like just being like, here, get to know me in fucking 4 hours or less, or across like 3 days.
Well,
you
and
know,
people
like,
talk about that on Bachelor in Paradise, because on Bachelor in Paradise, there's no group dates. There's no, like, living in separate houses or not seeing each other for days or weeks at a time. Like, they're just spending all day, every day, sitting on the beach talking to each other. And so they say, like, we've done 3 months worth of work on our relationship in 3 days. Like you said, because we have no distractions and because we can just devote the time to talking to each other. And that's why it's kind of widely accepted that paradise relationships tend to be more successful or more believable because they've really spent the time together, getting to know each other, having those deep conversations. That it's like, that seems crazy on The Bachelor when they're going on a one-on-one date week 1. Like, he doesn't know anything about this girl, so he's not going to ask her what they're going to do, what, like, are we going to send our kids to private or public school, because she might be gone by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, like, you know, there's something to be said for, like, online dating. You could say you can do a lot of talking before you actually ever see the person, but there's something so different about talking to the person. So, like, this is sort of like an in-between that and, like, meeting somebody in person.
Then you could get catfished.
I know.
My fiance and I met on Tinder, and he made me Facebook friend him and talk to him on the phone before we met in person so that he could make sure it wasn't catfishing him.
Yeah. But here's the other thing that I noticed about this show. This is one of the first comments I made to Steph, because I was telling her about watching the first episode. Was that, like, yes, this show is supposed to be about getting to know each other on a deeper level, but everybody is still, like, attractive.
I thought that too.
Well,
maybe not Bachelor.
Not everybody. Not everybody.
But like, they're still, like, for the most part.
Because that 38-year-old dude, I was like, why are you here?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's the only one. Like, they might not all be each other's type. Like,
I thought Rory was whatever. I thought Rory was kind of average in terms of looks, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it just, on the average, I just felt like they were still fairly attractive people. So for a show not about looks, they still look pretty good on TV for the most part.
Yeah.
Fair.
Can I just say a couple of things, in my opinion, that this show did right? And this makes me want to, like, quickly mention another show that I watch on Netflix that's a dating show as well. Is that these men were a diverse depiction of men. Cameron and Carlton were freely expressing their emotions without saying, like, oh, I shouldn't be crying, or oh, this is embarrassing. No, Cameron was openly crying more than once, and Carlton was willing to talk about, like, Black men are taught to behave this way, and I don't agree with that, and I think it's okay to be a strong Black man and still have emotions. And,
I
like,
co-sign everything he said.
Being able to, I know he hasn't told, like, the girl that he's interested in yet, but telling the camera, like, I'm sexually fluid. I've dated men in the past. Like, I was throwing my hands up in the air for him. Like, yes, you live your best life, and yes, you depict diverse men on television.
Okay, I did like all of what you're saying. However, I want to know more from him about the next part of what he said. Because the next part of what he said was about, I have been sexually fluid in the past and dated men in the past, but now I want a wife. And he didn't really go that specific into why.
Yes.
He said like women are more nurturing. Like he threw out something like that, which I was just like,
got me a little bit, because I was kind of like, okay, like now who's playing into gender stereotypes?
That's
well. Fair. I also didn't like that. Like I don't even remember who he did this to, but like he was like listening to somebody, and he just like was like he had like laid flat on the couch and just like he was just like
he was like snoring.
Yeah, he was just like doing that, and then he just like walked out of the pod, and she was like, "Hello."
Walked out of the pod, yeah.
And I was just like, Carlton, come on, my dude. Like, you're losing so many points here. Like, you could at least, I'm not saying you gotta like everybody, but you could at least try and get to know the person. Like, especially in an environment like this. Like,
again, it's a full person, right? That like, I think in some ways, because we are trying to normalize a lot of these things and depict different people on TV, that a lot of times we say like, oh, this man who's showing emotion is like, we put him up on a pedestal, or this man who's sexually fluid, and that, but he's also still a jerk sometimes, because he's still a person.
Yeah.
So, and so in some ways I almost like appreciate that a little bit.
Yeah, I can get it. I can't really think of a good place to put this, so I just have to bring this up. It was in my notes. So they spend like the first, like 10 minutes kind of explaining the premise. They bring Vanessa and Nick Lachey, which I was just like, this is hilarious to me that these two like attractive ass people are kind of preaching the virtues of emotional connections. And it's
and
like,
he goes, obviously I'm Nick Lachey.
Yep.
I feel like he meant it in a way of like, she introduced herself first and said Vanessa Lachey, and like,
yeah,
obviously I'm her husband, but then he did say,
he said it was just so douchey, and I was like, Jessica Simpson would have a field day with this.
Yes,
because
I agree.
Talked about how self-centered he was.
Yep. Yes, I agree with that, and that was on my notes as well. But then, so they spend 10 minutes telling you what the fucking premise of this show is, and then Jessica just is like, I'm here and blah 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 blah, and she's like, if I fall in love, it'll be with someone I've never seen. And I was like, thank you for the fucking recap, Jessica. I did not understand what the premise was, but you put it in terms I could understand.
Yep. The thing that I want to know about this show, is that I want to know about the people that we aren't seeing. Like, like there are
yes, I wrote down
here.
I wrote down, tell me more about LC. I want to know about LC. LC is very interesting to me. I want to know more about her.
Yeah, like I want to know, there are just like so many people that like we've seen say like two things, or we've just seen walking in the background, or just having a conversation with one of the people we've actually seen.
Like Rory did not introduce him. He just showed up towards the end of the episode to be like there for Barnett.
Yeah.
And then he just casually just put Rory, and then he's like 24 and like whatever he does. I was like,
maybe they just don't have a genuine connection with anyone, and like they've said like that's fine, and we'll just kind of weed people out, because we can't focus on 15 couples for the whole season.
No, yeah, and I actually know more about this part, but I won't talk about it.
And I figured like the way like I kind of started figuring out that like they were gonna start focusing on like Cameron and Lauren, and then Barnett, Jessica, and Mark, like because they obviously were the other people may have made like a connection as well, but like they were the ones that obviously made like this intense like right away, for lack of better words, this intense drama filled connection, for both of them. Because like with Jessica, she was like, well, I love Mark and he's got like this tattoo and we're very Christian. And I was like, y'all are going to be the weird Christian couple that lives in Chicago and goes to Bears and Cubs games, like, but like won't let your kids watch, XYZ television, or they are signed up exclusively for YouTube Kids so that they can't see anything, but then she like was like, oh, by the way, Barnett, tell me what to do. Like, if you tell me that you'll propose tomorrow, I'll literally do it. And I was like, I don't fucking believe you.
Like, oh my god.
So I had a note about her, and she reminds me of someone that was on a couple of seasons of The Bachelor / Bachelorette / Bachelor in Paradise, named Annalise. Anyone who watches will understand.
Yes, that's what it is.
So I say this for a few reasons. Jessica, while not old, is getting older and she really wants a family.
Mm-hmm.
She's concerned about the age difference with Mark, which I think is part of her hesitation.
Yep.
And so I feel like she's going to go with somebody that's closer in age to her and then just kind of like pick the first person that gives her any attention because she's so desperate to have that nuclear family and that like white picket life.
Yep.
And that's such a common thread on a lot of these dating shows is like the desperation factor of like, it's not true, but these people feel like they've exhausted their options. And like, this is what's left for them is like, I have to go on this reality dating show for some expert to match me up or to meet someone who doesn't know what I look like.
Yeah.
So that I can like hurry up and get moving along with being a mom.
Yep.
Okay. Amelia, you mentioned, have you watched Ahead?
I have not watched Ahead, but
okay.
somebody, I read something online that I maybe shouldn't have. It didn't spoil a lot. It just spoiled more of the premise.
Okay.
For me.
Because I was gonna ask the both of you, do you think that Jessica picks Mark or does Jessica pick Barnett?
Oh, see, okay, I don't know that. I don't know.
Okay, good. Because I was gonna just shoot it towards Amber, but
from the trailer, but
yeah, I don't remember from the trailer. Here, okay, so I really don't know.
I think she's gonna pick Mark. I think she's gonna pick Mark.
But here's my question for both of you, and I will answer it as well. A, how many couples do you think will get engaged? And B, how many couples do you think will get married at the end?
I think we're going to see 5 couples get engaged, and I think we'll see 2 weddings.
Okay.
Fuck. Because like
I said,
I say this having seen the trailer, which Sherrick has not.
Yeah, I said 7 and 2. Because Steph
also thought 2.
7. Steph asked me this question actually. I do know the answer to the engagement one because somebody spoiled it for me, but I answered 7 before that happened, so that's why I'm telling you that answer. I mean, that's yeah. Well, yeah.
I honestly feel like Cameron and Lauren are gonna get together, and they're gonna like stay. Like obviously they get engaged by the end of the episode, so there's one. But I feel like they're gonna get married, so there's one there. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna say 6 and 3.
Okay.
6 get engaged, 3 get married.
Okay. I feel like what we're gonna have to do is that when we get to the end of the season, we're gonna have to do a whole nother episode about the rest of the season and find out.
I'm down for that. Down for that. We should write down what our things are too, so we can kind of look back. And go, this is what I said.
Okay, while Amelia's writing that down, I just want to give one quick shout out to what maybe my favorite reality dating show ever that I've watched. And it's very short, so it's like a 3-hour commitment. It's 6 episodes on Netflix, and they're coming out with a second season.
Oh, are they?
I've heard. But it's called Dating Around.
Oh,
and the reason I like it so much is because there is representation of so many different types of people. There is queer people, there is straight people, there is a guy that's old, like very old, like in his 70s, and his wife has passed away, and he's
I want to see people like that on a if they do another thing of Love Is Blind. I want to see queer couples. I want to see like older couple. I want to see that.
And it's just so great. It's a similar like blind date sort of premise where it's one protagonist per episode, and they kind of intermix the dates with each other.
This sounds a little familiar to me. Yeah.
You see the protagonist ask a question about like, where do you work? And then they cut in with all of the other people saying like what they do for a living. They go to the same restaurant with all of them.
So this sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it's like a control group kind of thing almost. And it's super interesting. Like there are dates that you can tell are not going very well, but what they do is they kind of break it up into 3 acts where they have a drink, then they go to dinner, then they either will like go have another drink, have dessert. And like there are people where the protagonist after dinner is like, all right, well, let me get you an Uber.
Yep.
And then there are other people that they don't ever show them actually going back to anyone's apartment, but you can tell they're going back to someone's apartment. But like I said, there's just so much like representation. It's just like so honest and
Yeah,
it's
really
so
good.
interesting.
I've only watched 1 or 2 episodes, but
that old guy's episode, his name is Leonard, is like
that sounds a little familiar to me. Yeah.
yeah. I think didn't you get Steph to watch some of it at some point? I don't know.
I think I might have sat down and watched part of Steph with it.
So maybe that's why. But
part of an episode with Steph, I think. Yeah.
Anyway,
with
love that show.
Cool. I'm afraid that Love is Blind is going to break my heart because, like I said earlier, like the drama for the sake of drama kind of shit doesn't really do it for me in terms of my entertainment. But I think I would still stick it out, kind of just like from what I've gleaned from this first episode. So
yeah.
So yeah, I'll stick it out. We'll kind of
that's how it gets you.
Yeah.
Because like I love drama for the sake of drama, but there's a limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
yeah, it's like the secondhand embarrassment thing, like because then I feel like I'm part of the date, and I'm just like I want to fucking get out of here.
The
like
current season of The Bachelor,
yes.
and the Godfather of The Bachelor, Chris Harrison, has said that he thinks part of the reason why this season is so dramatic is because of the age of the contestants. They're too young.
We need to go back to older bachelors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Watch reality dating shows and tell us what you think.
Yes. Ooh. You can, like I said, you can tweet at us ASWAYDPOD. If you are not a Twitter user, like shoot us an email.
Yeah.
ASWAYDPOD@gmail.com. You can tell us what you think there. You can tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Shoot us an email. We read them. We promise. Yes. Okay, so I think that's gonna wrap up our main event. It's time before we get out of here to go Amelia and Amber. The fuck is this?
Yeah.
The bit on Amelia and Sherrick, what are you doing? Where I find some hilarity or ridiculousness upon the internets, and I subject Amelia and our guest to them as well.
I didn't know I was going to get to be a part of this, and I am.
Oh, I feel like I would be doing a disservice for you not to get to see what this is. Yes. So this one is an image. Feel free to click on it whenever you are ready because it had me rolling today.
What?
Yep. It is a picture of I believe it's like an English bulldog mix maybe. And it is just so wrinkly and adorable. And the caption says, "Fuckers deflated my dog, can't have shit in Detroit," which nothing against the city of Detroit. Like I could have been literally anywhere. If it would have said Milwaukee or if it would have said Miami or whatever, I still would have laughed as hard.
Said, "Fuckers deflated my dog." Like,
yes. It looks like, you know, the Left Behind series. Like, there's not a soul. And the eyes are also no longer present in the body of the dog. Like, it's like the skin and the bones got sucked out.
Yep.
And all that's left is this, like, floppy ass shell of
this dog is, like, just out like a light. Yep. Just sleep, like, big sleep. But
I need more pictures of this dog.
Right? Who is this dog?
It's so good.
Oh my god.
So that was this week's Amelia The Fuck Is This featuring Amber.
Yeah.
I'm honored to have been a part of that.
All right. Well, with that, we've gone pretty long, so we should probably wrap it up.
Yep. We've already listed where you can find us. Amelia, you are at Shake Meets World, and I am at A Black Sparrow. Amber, is there any place that you know if you wanted to get interacted with, like on Twitter or something? That's you don't have to. Never mind.
My Instagram's private.
Okay, then never mind. We won't worry about it.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Yep.
We'll respect in that space. That's an adult thing to do.
All right. Well, with that, I've been Amelia.
I've been Sherrick. And hey, don't eat pancakes thrown at you at wrestling events. Don't do it.
Yeah, sounds bad. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.